Good morning. Welcome to the Digital City Festival and this morning's keynote. I'm Richard Gregory. I'm a non-exec and advisor to a number of agencies and tech startups. And for a couple of years, I headed up Tech North, so it's no surprise that I'm fascinated by the potential for growth in the economy in this region. In this keynote session, our wonderful panelists will reflect on the digital acceleration journey. So far, they're going to examine current trends and discuss the emerging opportunities and challenges currently facing the region's digital economy. The event is live and will be videoed and audio recorded and broadcast via the Digital City Network for individuals to view after it has taken place. There is an app which I'm sure you've all got, and if you want to pose any questions for our panelists, please do that inside there and I'll keep an eye. Only questions, we're not taking requests, no song and dance numbers this morning. I will intro our panel shortly, but first we're going to have a few words from Janine at GC Growth Hub.
Hi, I'm Janine Smith and I'm Director of the GC Business Growth Hub based in Greater Manchester. If you don't know about the Hub already, you really should. It's a key organisation within its parent group, the Growth Company, and is responsible for supporting startups, scale-ups and SME businesses across the Manchester City region with a range of services and support programmes. I'll let you know more about exactly what that entails for the digital business community shortly. GC Business Growth Hub was a trailblazer for a national network of growth hubs, which now serve businesses in 38 regions across the country. Before I highlight some of the fantastic services that are available for your business, I'd like to recap a little on the last 12 months and paint a picture of how Manchester's digital economy has managed to thrive against an exceptionally challenging set of circumstances. I'd also like to take this opportunity to say just how proud we are to be involved in the Digital City Festival for the second year running. I believe this will continue to become a very important event in Greater Manchester's calendar, and it's vital for the region to come together with the wider global digital community and to meet other businesses, share best practice and learn from cutting-edge developments that are taking place in Greater Manchester, and also to learn from some global businesses and key players in the industry. While the coronavirus pandemic has presented some major challenges for the business community, it has paradoxically been a catalyst for acceleration and innovation across much of the digital economy. Given the unique and difficult experiences we've all recently faced, and I don't say this lightly, but the global trend towards digital and especially the shift to online sales has only propelled Manchester's reputation as the fastest growing tech city in Europe. During the first national lockdown this time last year, UK retail's market share of online sales jumped from 20% to 33%. 13 percentage points might not seem like a huge difference, but to put that into context, this is a similar rate of growth that has previously taken 10 years to achieve. Whilst time will tell how much of this market share will be sustained, we can be confident that these short-term spikes will have a long-lasting impact, with signs that the appetite for online sales is only increasing. Innovation is no longer a nice to have, it is a strategic necessity. This is especially true when it comes to digital innovation. As this period of change continues, the most successful businesses will be the ones that can tailor technology and adapt to new ways of working. Digital transformation has never been more important. Right now, as home to the UK's greatest concentration of e-commerce startups, Greater Manchester stands to benefit from these trends. The city region has become internationally established as a major hub for online retailers, producing no less than 5 homegrown e-commerce unicorns, that is companies with an IPO at or above $1 billion. They include the Hut Group, AO.com, Boohoo, Autotrader and On the Beach. They've been joined by major leading e-commerce companies arriving into Manchester, such as Amazon, Booking.com and Money Supermarket. As the largest digital and creative tech hub outside of London, it's no accident that these businesses have taken root here. Manchester is a thriving community of more than 10,000 digital and tech businesses, from startups and SMEs to global brands including Google, Microsoft, IBM and Cisco. It's officially the UK's top digital tech city, with ambitions to become a top 5 European digital city and a global influencer. Manchester's vibrant £5 billion digital ecosystem supports more than 86,000 jobs and is accelerating at pace. With an extensive recovery from COVID-19 still to get fully underway, there is an immediate need to deal with those sectors that have been disproportionately negatively impacted, such as the hospitality and tourism and leisure sector. This brings a great sense of expectation for many digital businesses to continue bucking the negative trends and to grow at pace, which will become increasingly challenging. Such challenges mean that this is not a time for any sector to rest on its laurels, and especially not digital. The Growth Hub has helped hundreds of businesses in the digital, creative and tech sector to grow, as well as many other sectors that have needed to upskill and digitise in order to survive. We're proud at the Hub to be working with digital as an enabler for our clients' growth. Our efforts are focused on both digitally enabling all businesses and by scaling digital businesses. Some of the businesses we have worked with will be joining us on our panel discussions throughout the festival. Our experienced business advisors know the issues affecting the sector and are brilliantly placed to give expert advice around launching new service products, finding the right talent, navigating ever-squeezed margins, service specialisation and much more, tailoring their advice to each individual business case. In Greater Manchester, the Growth Hub leads on a range of cohort programmes that cover all stages of a business journey and are designed to build a real community in this sector. These programmes include Greater Connected, Exceed, the Creative Scale-Up programme and Global Scale-Up. Over the past year, our Global Scale-Up programme has been especially helpful for Greater Manchester digital businesses, with success stories including Total Processing, opening an office in Dubai and building a team of 8, and Insights people entering the Russian and Chinese markets. These are just some examples of the 60 new international markets we have helped our businesses to reach this year through this programme. In addition to these programmes, the Hub's Innovation and Digitisation team offer fully funded one-to-one and cohort specialist support to help businesses understand digitisation and implement innovative technology throughout their business. As well as this, we're also collaborating with local and national organisations to deliver digital support programmes, including GM Digital Drive. This is a collaboration between the Hub Group, the Growth Hub and the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. And then there's also Digital Boost, a national programme which the Growth Hub is promoting and supporting. If you're representing a digital, creative or tech business and are hearing about the Growth Hub and its services for the first time, I'd urge you to contact our team at businessgrowthhub.com. There is a wealth of expertise available right here on your doorstep. Thanks for listening, and I will now hand back over to Richard Gregory for our keynote session, Shaping the Future, Accelerating the Power of the Digital Economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janine. Now it's time to introduce our esteemed panel. And I'm going to ask each of them just to tell us a little bit about their organisation and their role within it before we get onto the questions. If I can go first to Lorna, founder and CEO of Red Wigwam.
Hi, I'm Lorna Davidson, and yes, founded Red Wigwam. Red Wigwam is a slightly different type of business. It's a platform that matches workers and hirers. So it uses tech to change work for good.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Lorna. And now over to Warren Middleton, Senior Partner at KPMG in the Manchester office.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for that. So it's Warren Middleton, yes. I'm the Office Senior Partner for KPMG in Manchester. Prior to that, I was a technology partner working with some of our clients up and down the country.
Wonderful. And Sarah at GC Growth Hub, Business Growth Hub.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for that. Yes, Sarah Novotny. I head up the digital, creative and tech sector support for the Business Growth Hub.
And last but not least, Katie Leeson at Social Chain.
Morning, Richard. Yeah, my name's Katie Leeson. I'm Managing Director of Social Chain, and we are a social media marketing agency and social publisher.
Right, and if I can stay with you, Katie, because the first question's really for you. There's been a bright spotlight on consumer behaviour over the last 12 months, monitoring global trends, making predictions for how consumers are going to come out of the pandemic. What do you think are the trends that will define the digital economy as it continues to accelerate?
Yeah, so the health crisis last year brought unexpected change to businesses of all kinds. Some brands and agencies use the time to choose positive disruption in a way that benefits their audiences, and we've seen it in our own work, and we're having conversations with CEOs and marketing directors about their business challenges now, rather than just what can this social campaign do for our follower numbers and growth. So companies like Tinder, who chose to accelerate their rollout of video chat features and became a place where you could meet people outside of your social circles, is probably a really good example of that. Social media, we know as well, in the next, following on from the last 12 months, will become a top channel for purchase. So instead of just discovery, we've seen how people have adapted to online shopping throughout the pandemic. Amazon's net profit increased by 84% last year. And with each key platform making it easier for consumers to go from discovery through to purchase without having to leave the platform, this will be something that brands should be starting to think about now. And then we've got the rise of virtual experiences and events, just like the one we are enjoying and will enjoy today. We've managed to reach a much wider audience with this change in how we've run events than having it in person and in the direct direct vicinity of the events. It's much lower cost and a higher ROI, and I expect to see a hybrid model be created. As I'm sure we all want to get back together and do this in person, but the capabilities that it's enabled us to be able to spend time dipping in and out of your day to join talks that you really want to listen to without it being something that takes over your whole day, or being able to listen to it from somewhere else in the country and or the world, is something that I think that will develop as we move forward now.
That's fascinating. So you believe that some of the things that we've had to adapt to during the pandemic are actually going to stick rather than fade away. So I guess as much as we've seen e-commerce accelerate, it will carry on that journey. You think the same is going to apply to social, the virtual experiences, etc. That's wonderfully fascinating, yeah. I'm going to take that across to Sarah now, if I can, and those trends. I mean, really, what's the international angle here? You know, how can businesses capitalise on that acceleration of the digital economy to propel international growth? Have you got any? Do you think that's a game changer for the industry?
Yeah, I think absolutely agree with Katie. There's been two really big shifts, not just how consumer behaviour has changed, in terms of like their, I guess, increase. Appetite for innovation and adaptation and how they kind of communicate and consume media. It's filtered through into the ways that we work, which is a really important facet of kind of thinking on a global scale, because the way we work now, which we're hoping will stick to a certain degree with it being a lot more blended, allows us to tap into skills and talent from across the globe, which then is a really important part to be added into the mix for the digital economy that wants to kind of expand further. So ways that the Business Growth Hub helps businesses to achieve that is through a multitude of ways, from like one-to-one support to tapping into programs, and the Global Scale Up program is one of those, which really helps opening up global markets, whether that's through warm introductions or trade missions, or all sorts of kind of like those important steps that before I guess were really difficult to do on a bigger scale or do in a really timely, fast fashion. What's happened in the last year has allowed us to kind of bring that to folks a lot quicker, a lot more efficiently, and a lot more successfully, I guess.
Hey, look, we've needs must, and we've been forced to try new things and been surprised by some of the outcomes. Jumping across to Warren now. So the benefits of digital transformation, have been clearer than ever for the last year. Leading a large organisation, how do you embed this culture of change into the business, and why is it so pivotal to do this across businesses of all sizes?
Well, I'll talk about KPMG, but I'll also talk about some of our clients and what we're seeing across those clients as well. And to support what Katie and Sarah said, one of the things we're seeing is because the digitalisation that we're seeing right now, where we're working on this digital platform really, and doing the festival on the digital platform, the first thing we're seeing is that we can get our very best people into clients and to advise them at a much more cost efficient and effective way. So if you were the best person in A, B or C in a strategy house, perhaps you'd spend most of your days trying to travel from one client to another. But by using digital technology like we're using this morning, we can get those people in front of our clients immediately, more often, and not interrupted by travel. So we're seeing that as a major change. I think the other thing to build on that, and it goes hand in hand with the change in working patterns that we're seeing, is that digitalization is now happening not function by function within a business. So it's not just happening in finance or happening in sales, it's across the enterprise. Now, we call that powered enterprise, but other businesses are doing this as well. And we're seeing how people are joining up the digitalization across the enterprise, how they are using proven platforms, well-known big suppliers, as well as smart, innovative tech providers in that, in those projects. And we're seeing a huge acceleration of those projects in the last 6 to 12 months. And the benefits really are that this supports the new ways of working. It probably supports a reduction in cost. It supports standardization as well, so that the entrepreneurs and the business owners, the business leaders, can focus on what's really important to their business and not worry about some of the back office technology problems that they've had to deal with before. So that standardization allows for that. And it's probably improving the working experience for staff and for customers as well. Oh, and probably the supply chain if you do this properly. So the standards, you're improving the experience and helping the business grow by doing these sorts of enterprise-wide transformation projects.
And I want to pick up on a point there, actually. So, I think Katie referred to it more about the virtual experience side of things. You've talked about it from a remote services standpoint, what I'm going to call remote servicing, where you've been able to put a variety of expertise in front of a client because there's no travel time, there's no train time, etc. And that's made you more flexible and efficient. That all sounds wonderful. I guess the question is, why didn't we do that before the pandemic? Because we probably could have done then. What do you reckon that's happened?
I think it's necessity, Richard. So, like many people on the call, I was quite often up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to get an early flight or a train somewhere. I've realised in the last 12 months we don't need to do that. And the expectation of clients and customers and suppliers has changed as well. So we don't need to do that. And I think there'll always be an element of that going forward. That's not to say we won't do some of that travel, because some meetings you needed in the room a little bit better than others. So it will come back a little bit, but I don't think it'll go back to how it used to be. And it's necessity that's brought that innovation about.
Brilliant. I mean, it's interesting. I've been following a lot of what Bruce Days has been writing and covering in his podcast about the way we work. And he phrased it around, I think, the pandemic almost gave us permission to do some of this more quickly, whether it was the e-commerce acceleration or that remote servicing. So I'm going to come back to Sarah now, if I can. According to, and this is obviously a subject close to my heart from my old Tech North days, which obviously now is Tech Nation. In their UK Tech for a Changing Nation report, a strength of the North is a scale and scope of the digital sector, but how it covers both established and emerging technologies. If we want to continue leading, what do we need to do now?
Okay. Put diversity at the forefront of everything we do, because I think, I, speaking from my own experience, I'm not originally from Manchester. The community and the kind of the diversity that is in Manchester has really made me choose this as my home for longer than I choose that I want to admit to here right now. But it's really at the heart of it, and it's all of those kind of shared experiences and everyone kind of like chipping in and bringing to this community that really makes a difference. I think, as a nice result from that is also is obviously the skills that we're bringing up in the city. We have a whole host of universities that are nurturing in Greater Manchester, but then obviously beyond that in all of the North, that are really zooming in and then kind of nurturing that the digital economy, digital skills, digital innovation. But then also, I think, again, nurturing the kind of the leaders that are here and encouraging them to be part of this wave of talent that we're bringing up, and kind of like allowing young talent to be part of their journeys, whether that's through apprenticeships or whether that's through kind of creating roles in such a way that are bringing that about. And then again, I would say use that diversity that we have and bring that to the world. So again, this whole reoccurring theme of kind of looking global, and looking beyond on what we have here.
Thank you very much. Back to Katie now, please. I mean, the last year has seen some really sweeping kind of social, political and economic movements. And business leaders themselves, rather than the politicians, have been increasingly challenged on their role in society, both inside their organisation by their employees and externally by customers, shareholders, etc. But what is the role of digital leaders in this space? And what would be your advice to any leaders who are nervous about entering into these discussions? Should they?
I mean, it can be a very tricky space to enter if you've not done your due diligence in the first place. So for me, I choose to speak about areas that I'm really passionate about and things that I really feel I can make a change in. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about how me speaking up can help others drive diversity within the industry and show others that they can do the same. I'm a big fan of you can't be what you can't see, and it took me a long time to get here. Though I'm going to say that it's not something that I'm still not 100% comfortable with, and there's certain things that can happen within society that you don't feel comfortable talking about. But for me, it's all about doing your research, understanding the makeup of what we've got in the North, and then being able to talk about it with the data behind you. So for me, though, really, if you really want to do this, and I would suggest that you should look into it, my tip would be to understand your why. What are you passionate about? How can you speak about something authentically to make a difference as a leader, both inside your organisation and outside? And I think the inside part is really interesting because your staff now are looking to you to be that vocal point for a company that they want to attach themselves to and believe in and grow with and stand for something. So I think it's very important that you have your research done, you're prepared to have other opinions enter your feed or your world, but as long as you're true to the reasons that really matter to you, it won't affect you as much, and you can carry on moving forward with the passion that you've got to make a change.
I guess the fear is that you may alienate either employees or customers along the way. I mean, is there a way of minimising that in kind of your approach, or is that where it comes back to actually this is a subject I'm not going to engage in, but this is what I'm going to, is it around the choice of subjects, you think? I
think so. I mean, it's personal. I feel a lot more comfortable talking about things that I know I can make a difference in, and I've got the experience to talk about it. It's not saying that I'm going to shy away from any other topics, but I will also do my research and try and understand. Like at the moment, for example, we're really looking into our makeup of our staff and understanding where we can drive different types of talent within the company to join us. I think what the research we've done, we've got a really interesting mix of about 50% of people who've never worked in social or digital before, and then 50% who've worked in media and marketing. So for us, it's like, how do we find that raw talent? They're probably not coming from universities. They're probably coming from apprenticeship schemes and other areas. How do we find those to then help build this diversity of thought that then you can start to speak about from an authentic place?
Yeah, and obviously as a creative organisation, you need that diversity in the mix because it adds to your overall capabilities, quite frankly. Lorna, a topic that's come up a couple of times already this morning, and we know it's a recurring one, is around talent. The North is home to some wonderful, some world-class education facilities, and remote working is now becoming an attractive proposition. What do cities need to do to retain their talent there?
I think it's interesting, and I absolutely agree with Katie and Sarah. It is about changing and about understanding the changes that people are going through. So I think the biggest thing about talent that is changed is people want to work for businesses they're proud of. They want to understand the purpose. They want to understand the values of the business, much more than actually what's my title and what am I going to get paid for it. That is much more really important in terms of people and how they develop. So I think it's really important that businesses and the city understand their value and purpose. I think the other thing that, and we've talked about it already, but the pandemic has heightened this for us, is people want to be treated properly. They want to go to work, they want to be developed, they want to do a great job, but they want to be treated in the correct way. And we at Red Wigwam talk about flexibility, and that's a little bit different than remote working, because remote working is about working from home. Flexibility for us is about working in a way that you choose to, so in a way that fits with your life. And again, I think that's very important. And I think as a city, one of the things that Manchester does do is offer lots of other things than just great places to work. And I think that's hugely important. I think the other thing that people need to recognise is that the talent that we're now all trying to attract, but most importantly keep, have a very different view in life than when I was growing up. So when I was growing up, my parents would tell me, you've got to get 3 months' salary behind you because, you know, you might lose your job and you've got to pay your mortgage. Now, generations are putting money behind them because actually if they're not happy, they're just going to move on.
Yeah.
So where, you know, we would stick with things, they don't. And I think that's the thing that people have got to recognise, that they've got a much more discerning marketplace and they have to be better at what they do.
One other thing I've been thinking about a bit is obviously when we talk about remote working, it's also considering about, you know, employing people from all over the country, the world, you know, working with those time zones, etc. And I haven't quite got my head around whether that's how much of a challenge versus an opportunity that is, particularly for a region. You know, whilst we might be able to have, you know, lots of people in the Northwest or in Manchester working for London or overseas companies, equally those Northwest businesses might be employing people in other countries if they can't find the talent on their doorstep. How do you see it at the moment? And equally, by the way, if any of the other panelists have a view on this, shout and we'll go to you as well.
I think it's a really interesting point because I think there is this movement in terms of how we're doing things and how we're doing it differently. And I'm not sure we've all quite got our head around that. So working flexibly is really important for people. But what we have to do is we have to be really good leaders in our business to make that work for us. Mm-hmm. So we've all done this. We've done Zoom calls till they're coming out our ears. Actually managing a team remotely like that is a very different set of skills than when you're sitting in an office. And those are the things that I think we need to work on if we're bringing people from other countries, other parts of the country, or even if you know, people from Manchester are working elsewhere. We need to help them understand how to behave, but also how to be managed at the same time. And I think that's hugely important.
Richard, if I might.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it, Sarah.
No, it's so interesting what Lorna says because it's so much reflected in the support that we, you know, give to businesses that is very much, you know, shaped by demand, because obviously probably back end of last year we started having a lot of those conversations around, you know, okay, so we've all been at home, what does that mean kind of going forward? And one of the really big changes, a really quite big seismic change in business support was that whilst historically a lot of the support was directed at the business leaders, and that's still very important, we have, upon requests from businesses and the leaders, opened up our programs to their whole staff if that's what they wish to do so. Because I think what has happened is, so whilst the leader still has to have the vision, it's now everyone kind of, it's almost like flattened the pyramid for a lot of businesses. So this new way of working, so everyone needs to be invested. Everyone needs to have a lot more clarity on what it is that they're kind of like trying to achieve, where they're kind of trying to go. Because this remote way of working, what it doesn't allow for is fluffiness or is uncertainty of what it is that we're trying to achieve at the end of the week, at the end of the day, because really we only have 2 or 3 hours where everyone can talk to each other. So we have to be quite efficient in that sense. And I think, again, I would encourage everyone not just to go into it with, oh, we'll just do matrix management or we'll just do remote working and it'll be fine. It really needs some thought, and it really needs, you know, we've spoken to some of the other speakers here today earlier. It often starts with kind of like fact finding, asking staff what it is that they want to, how they want to work going forward, because whilst working from home used to be a really big benefit, 2 years ago, it now is the norm. I think it was over 60% of all of the jobs advertised in GM at the moment are remote, kind of offer a degree of working from home from now on. So it's not like it's a differentiator, it's the new norm, and it needs a strategy to do so successfully.
Yeah, and I think in passing just before we started this broadcast, I think Warren, you were mentioning earlier, as we move back into the office and get back into this hybrid working mode, that's where it's going to be the next challenge, because we've got so used to working remotely. How are KPMG handling that? How are you ready for moving back in and adapting to some people being at home while some people are in the office?
Thank you. Yes. So I think the first thing I'd say is flexibility doesn't mean a free for all, doesn't it? It means that I think, as others have said, we need a set of rules, a set of parameters, a set of decisions that are taken between staff and leaders to identify what we mean by hybrid, what the parameters are, what the boundaries are, so that we're all really clear on that, and that's linked into what the achievement and the goal is for every week, every month, every quarter, every strategy period, whatever it might be, so that we've got that sort of consistency across the teams. What we're doing is we're just about to kick off a project within the office, actually, that redecorates, re-energises, rearranges the office. I think it'll be less standard desk hubs, more collaboration space, more space where teams can come together to work out a problem, to plan a project, to plan an assignment, to plan how they're helping clients, and then to deliver in those spaces as well. So less individual pods, less racks and racks of desks, which we used to have, and more collaboration space, which would be quite exciting. I think as well, we're seeing that with other clients as well doing that. So I was with 2 clients last week, and both of them were ripping out much of their office infrastructure and replacing it with new ways of working and new support for those ways of working. And there will be a period where we've all got to adjust to this in the next 6, 12, 18 months. Let's see how long that takes. The other thing I'd say, and I was saying to you before, Richard, where I think we will struggle, and it'll just need some adjustment, is where half the people for a team are in the building, in a room, and some are dialing in from home. We need to find a way where that hybrid or that situation can be managed better than we used to before the pandemic. You'll remember being in meetings and calls yourself, I'm sure, where you weren't quite sure what was happening in the room, what the body language was, what the reaction was to a statement. We need to find ways of resolving that when we move back into that sort of situation.
Absolutely. And if I can stay with you, Warren, I want to get back to something that Janine mentioned in the intro there. The North is taking its position as an internationally recognised centre of digital innovation. Can we continue to encourage that? Is there more innovation? Can we be seeking more investment into the region?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was first in this role about a year ago, so just as the COVID pandemic started, and I was aware of what we've done in the North, and Manchester in particular, but it only takes you to be here for a little while to understand the vast array, the consistency and the depth of what we've done in terms of digital and innovation. I think it's something we should all be really proud of, and we should sponsor in our own networks when we talk to other people, either within or external to the region. And in this role, I'm very lucky that I get to see so many innovative, either startup businesses or medium-sized businesses now that have gone on and achieved so much, and might be looking at overseas or international expansion. I think one of the surprising things was that international expansion happens a lot earlier in the growth of a business than what I imagined. So, quite often, especially in retail and consumer, you see that companies at relatively early age have gone into international expansion. I'd recommend that people get to know a little bit about the Global Scale-Up Programme from the Growth Company, which we're ourselves are involved in, but others are as well. And other similar schemes. Get to know that, understand the principles behind that, even if you're not one of the cohort members, understand what they're trying to do and their approach, because it might help you, or get involved and become a member of the cohort as well. There's other schemes as well out there like that, so take a look at those and really get to understand the basics behind them, and then look for different schemes that maybe or awards or forums or sessions like today where people can share their successes and share their experience. And once you've done that, share your experience out to other people in your supply chain, out into partnering businesses and other companies that you work with. I will make one plug. We're just about to launch our Tech Innovator Award for the Northwest and globally. So it'd be great if people on here today, if you want to get involved in that award programme, then let us know. But there are others like that. Always try and find those sorts of forums and those sort of areas where you can get free advice to really strengthen your approach when you go international.
Yeah, and I'm really reassured actually to hear that your kind of view is that you're seeing people consider globalization at an earlier stage. I've always been a big fan of it. I think there's often a mental block in a founder's or a business owner's mind around expanding outside their initial territory, because there's a perceived fear or complication. And don't get me wrong, obviously there's changes and different things to be done, but generally they're less intimidating and frightening when you actually start getting to grips with them. And it's a wonderful opportunity, particularly, again, more of my background's in kind of the agency and the tech space. And most of your toughest competition is on your doorstep. So it actually makes sense to move overseas where there's lesser competition in some of the product areas you may be offering. I want to come back to Lorna now, if I can. So the lockdown, combining that with digital innovation, the lockdown saw some great examples of digital businesses stepping in to provide innovative solutions to some of society's biggest challenges. Red Wigwam, your own business, have just launched a service to connect companies with much needed cleaning staff on demand, because obviously we've all had to get a lot cleaner and sanitized everywhere. Can you tell us a bit more about connecting your digital business to other parts of the economy, please?
Yeah, we've, like everybody, we've been through a journey at Red Wigwam. You know, we used to do a lot of work in hospitality, that closed down, etc. But what we discovered was that both our, and we call them Wigwammers, so the people that work with us, and our hirers had a different demand. So they were looking for opportunities to work flexibly, but actually remove risk. So a lot of our hirers were saying, I want to be able to open the marketplace back up, but I don't know when it's going to be. How do I go about that? And the thing that we discovered was that actually, and lots of companies have been talking about pivoting, we didn't actually pivot. What we did is we focused. So what we did is we looked at the services we were providing in the marketplaces and said, what do they really, really need to be able to open up in the right way? And so, as you mentioned, cleaning is one of the ones. We've done a lot of work with facility management companies, as you would expect. But what we recognized was actually they just didn't need cleaners. They needed amazing cleaners. They needed people that could work on their own, that had self-initiative, could be trusted to go in and represent their brand. So what we did is we used the tech to actually do online training, do different types of guidance for our guys in terms of video links and things like that. And that focus has allowed us to offer something very different to the marketplace in terms of being able to be open 24/7, to be able to get cleaning staff whenever you need them, but know that they're great cleaning staff very quickly. So for us, it was about focus. And one of the things we've learned through this pandemic is that actually companies require us to be quite focused and understand their industry, what they need, and make sure we're matching that.
Oh, you're preaching to the converted. I'm a massive believer in focus. Too many companies spread themselves too thin in too many different areas. So that ability to find the thing that you can get everyone behind and that clients and customers can understand is absolutely wonderful. I want to carry on that theme of collaboration a little bit, and we do have a couple of questions coming in from the audience as well, so I'm going to make time for those too. But Sarah, you know, as the business growth up, have you seen more examples of collaboration between digital economy players and other sectors over the last year or so?
Yes, and it was really quite amazing to see. Really, some of the really kind of like very big players have actually approached us to see how they can help. So one of the examples would have been the Hut Group. Partnering up with us and bringing e-commerce solutions either at a really low cost or for free for a certain amount of time to help those that have potentially been a little bit behind with their digitalization to kind of really step up and get going, you know, relatively risk-free based on that lower cost of entry. But then also AWS just recently have approached us and, you know, they're trying to do their bit. They're trying to help other sectors with their digital innovation. So that's been some of the examples of the bigger players. Some of the smaller ones, I've seen, you know, really fantastic innovation happening. A lot of the players within the nighttime economy, they really had to again, do that fine line dance between what are we really good at and what can we offer right now that's needed. One of the examples really close to my heart is we've seen a company that works traditionally in kind of like nighttime economy production, partnering up with a film production company and going into museums and offering this kind of like immersive experience to schools. So it's been schools were crying out for content, educational content that was digital for their students, and multiple players that were, you know, just overnight without work or purpose have kind of grouped up and helped to bring something really new to the market. So and there's hundreds and hundreds of examples like that, but it's been really fascinating to see. And again, I go back to this amazing kind of community that we have here, because everyone has jumped up and said, what can we do? What can we do? What is it that we can bring to the table to help?
And it's very reassuring that, despite the kind of horrific events of the last year and what have you, that we have seen such positive outcomes, whether it's on the collaboration, whether it's this shift we mentioned before around, the virtualization, more efficiency there, being able to kind of improve businesses through remote working, that some positives have come from all of this. I want to use that to segue a little bit into a couple of the questions we've had from the people watching their live stream. And Arif's asked, that we're very much focused, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here, we're very much focused on the digital dream. This is obviously a digital transformation session. But how do we still be mindful of the dangers that it can bring to the next generation? So thinking about being awareness of privacy, of mass surveillance. Is that something, and I might go to you, Katie, with this one, if that's okay. Is that something we have to be mindful of, and how we kind of make our the next generation, make our employees aware of some of the downsides potential, some of the unintended consequences of all these positives?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we probably didn't touch on before was the impact that remote working has had on the younger generation and the next generation of leaders, regardless of the industry you work in. So a lot of our staff is like, an average age is probably around mid-20s, and it's working from home can have so many benefits, but also so many cons as well. So a lot of these people have moved to a city to be close to the place they work, to build connections that they will take throughout their careers. And being in a city then that you can't leave your one-bedroom flat and you're having to work from that one space, I think it would be very dangerous for us not to recognise that as leaders and make sure that we offer and understand what people want from their working environment. And then you talked about privacy and understanding those sorts of things. I think we've got to make sure that we're offering the right level of training so everyone understands the implications, because I'm pretty sure like a lot of younger generations are a lot more savvy on those sort of things than some older generations might be as well. So I think it's all around giving the right training at every level that fits with how we're going to work and how the world is going to move forward in the future.
Excellent. And then we've got a second question, because people have really resonated with the use of the word, but both Lorna and Warren mentioned around flexibility, because that is the buzzword for the kind of next stage of working and returning to the office. So if we are pursuing more flexible working and a model around that, Michael Shaw's asked, what's going to happen? What's the impact of the reduced workspace potentially? And how do we feel the real estate industry is going to respond and adapt? I might start with Warren on that, if that's okay, and then maybe Lorna afterwards.
Thanks, Richard. So, and a good question. I'm not sure whether we'll see a reduction in the workspace. I think we'll see an adaptation and a change in what that space is used for. If you think about a collaboration space, an area with open space, with ability to put different shapes of furniture, different types of furniture in there for different purposes, multimedia walls, the use of different mechanisms to make that space very collaborative and aid collaboration. It's not a small space, is it? You want to have it flexible enough to have maybe half a dozen, 12, 20 people within that space. So that space isn't necessarily a reduction on an area that's basically pods and pods of desks. So I'm not sure there's quite a reduction yet, and I might be proven wrong. It's something that we'll only really know in 18 months, 2 years time, when we've all been through this. But I'm not seeing a big reduction in that space and in that area necessarily, and it's how we adapt into those aspects and those changes that'll be key.
And Lorna, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, I come at it from a slightly different angle. For me, I think the working day will change. So one of the things that I'm working on with my team is obviously trying to get some of them back into the office, because As Katie said, I've got a very young team, and they are desperate, to interact with other people, but also for their development, etc. But I think one of the things we're trying to do is think about how we work differently in the office. So rather than it just being the same way we worked at home and now we work in the office together. So we've got sort of days where we are taking a project in the morning and we're going to try and deliver it by close of play that day, so that each of the teams will work with each other, but we'll actually have a really clear deliverable that we'll work on rather than just doing the same job in a different place.
Absolutely wonderful. And as we come to wrap up the session now, I just want to come back to each of you. And if you can kind of sum up in a couple of sentences, there's been a lot to celebrate despite the tough times over the last year, and we've still got a long way to go. What will be the priorities within your organisations over the next 12 months to continue to accelerate your role within the digital economy? And if I start with Lorna first.
Yeah, we've put a lot of thought into this, and so we're very clear. Innovation is at the heart of our business. We're going to have to keep innovating and moving very quickly. We'll only achieve that if we've got great people, if we're outstanding at what we do. But we need a really strong digital presence where we allow our customers to interact with us, talk to us, but we make sure that we listen. So without a doubt, innovation is at the heart of everything we do.
And Warren?
I think I won't repeat anything that's been said, so I'll try and keep to 3 points really. I think in terms of the enterprise-wide solutions that we adapt for ourselves and for our clients, to make sure that they have a mix of proven players and tech innovators within them as well. Secondly, and I think it's picking up on the point from one of the questions, that we're building cyber, data security, information security in those solutions as well. We don't think of them as an afterthought and something we do later. We do them at the start and throughout the programme. And secondly, to continue to work with either the growth company or our Tech Innovator Awards to find the very best in the Northwest and propose and sponsor and support those businesses as well.
Sarah.
Yes, for us, it's quite simple, really. We need to continue changing with the needs of our business clients, making sure that we're kind of offering that blended support that they're needing, and helping them, I guess, see those examples of what good can look like, or what success looks like, and how fast that's achievable. I think it's also the other side to us is to make sure that we are that voice for the businesses when talking to those that are making new legislation and that are kind of changing potentially kind of the rules of the digital economy, so that the voices of the businesses are heard. And then, kind of continue bringing good programs to the market that people can kind of tap into that peer-to-peer support, but also, get access to kind of thought leadership trainers. So, yeah.
And finally, Katie, what are your priorities?
Well, we've been looking long and hard at our role and our place within the industry, how we can continue to live the reason we exist, which is to keep brands at the forefront of what's possible. What we've been looking at is a focus on emerging technologies, platform changes, purchasing journeys, and creative that captures and engages audiences. We need to stay close to those emerging and growing trends and create an environment both in the office and when people are working from home that allow for these agile sprint sessions that keep us with the rapid changes of consumer behaviour in the last 12 months. So I'm very excited about the future.
Hey, wonderful. I mean, I've got to thank our panel. If we had an audience here, we'd give them a round of applause. You can do it at home if you want. It may feel a little awkward, but don't be shy. I want to thank them for a really kind of upbeat session there. That's left me really invigorated for the rest of the day. I think we've had a great year in spite of some big challenges. We've been able to innovate, and now we've got to focus a bit more on flexibility, continue the innovation, and really push harder on the diversity side of things. But thank you, everyone. We're going to wrap up now and move on to the next session. Thank you very much, everyone.